Okay, let's start. So we came to the last moment of our journey. So we start our program, and this time we'll speak
Rozpoczniemy
about
trzecią część naszej podróży i będziemy mówili o projekcie naukowcy.
Remember that I am, of course, senior researcher at the National Council of Research in Bologna. I also was the inventor and the director for 4 years of a project that is called the Language of Research. So my presentation is now like a dedication for society, because I think that science and society must go together, and they will be very, very strong to be together. And also I believe that the high school is the right moment to motivate young people to do a lot, what the best they can do for society and science. I started to think about the project when I read the books from Wittgenstein. He especially inspired me for the words that you can see in this slide. The limits of my language are the limit of my mind. All I know is what I have words for. And this phrase made me a lot of thinking, because I am a person that likes to communicate, but I see around me many people that have difficulty to express their thinking, their feelings. And so I think that since young, and in particular in high school, I think that it is very important for teachers to inspire students in order that they start to be interested in communication. We have really many places and occasions to express our ideas and give messages. Therefore, in the schools, we must learn how to communicate. And this communication, it's in different fields. You know, from, for example, the easiest examples are the newspaper. And even when you have to tell a news like the Nobel Prize, this year, the Nobel Prize for Peace was given to the association that gives food everywhere. And you have to find the words to explain the news to many people. Also, the way we speak, it is very important for advertisement. And Nike was one of the first to adopt English directly for its advertisements. Just Do It, for example, is spreading everywhere for the Nike advertisement. And this leads me to speak about what is the core of my presentation. How important is to learn how to speak English. And generally, we know that with globalization, we must learn many languages. And in fact, on your mobile, you have even the translators that you can type the question in your language, and you have the translator that can speak with the others in the other languages. But this is not, you cannot interpret this as a facilitation of communication. Therefore, it is very important that in schools teachers are interested to improve your interest for communication. And at the same time, I think it is also important to connect language with sciences. And by the way, science has English as common languages. And therefore, when you communicate science, you learn how to speak English directly. All students must acquire the specific language in the discipline they study in order to be prepared to speak all over the world about science. And the link between science and society through the school is very important in order that students. Moreover, we can and now we know very well that to know languages, it increases the opportunity for improvement in societies. For example, in new opportunities for jobs and careers. The translations, for example, we are helped now from a nice woman that is translating my language from English to Polish, because she learned how to be fast in changing languages and translating. And she is also expert, and she wanted to study also the technical language. Then in the commerce, in every type of commerce, so every type of tourism is important in their languages. So I think that in Poland, as in Italy, as everywhere, the need of knowing at least mother language and English is now very, very clear. But what I am interested in to point out the importance of scientific divulgation. Scientific divulgation is probably the most interesting branch of the journalism. That gives information on science discoveries that can be all over disciplines, from new therapies to environmental problems, from archaeology to the space, from humans to animals, and a lot more. So what is the aim of a scientific divulgator is to put the readers in contact with the frontiers of new science.
Could you once again share with us your presentation on the screen?
Wait a minute, I didn't understand if my
and your camera as well.
Is okay, my presentation? Can you give me the okay? Okay. Let me see, 1 second, because okay. I have to. I have to start again.
Please try to share your camera and screen with us. Thank you.
Okay.
And camera, please.
Yeah.
Oh, you...
No. I am here. I try to do the camera, but the webcam is blocked. I don't know why. Let me see why it is blocked.
Please share your camera with us. We can see the presentation, but
yeah, but the camera I don't
into full screen mode.
Okay. Let me see. I see the camera. Conversione bloccata. Let me see. I don't
Yes,
know.
we can see your presentation, but without the camera.
But I don't know, because I don't know why this camera is not now in, I don't know, imposta lo stato, on a computer. I don't know why, because I was with the camera, but I don't know why it changed into different situation.
We can make a technical break, so please connect once again.
Okay, I will start again. Okay, now I share the webcam, high quality. Okay, mostra webcam. Okay. Okay, and now I will do this. Okay.
Yes. Oh.
Okay, shall I start
And the full screen for presentation.
Shall I start again?
And we continue from the last place
From now?
that you stopped.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay. So, the aim of scientific divulgators is to put the readers in contact with the frontiers of new sciences and give to the readers some guidelines in order that they can understand what science is giving to the society. To become scientific divulgation, you must follow some courses, specific courses, even at university. If you are interested in this kind of job, you must develop since the high school an interest in science. Some of the key factors of a science divulgator is, for example, to explain very well in order that the skin that is not very clear slowly is turning into a thread of a regular shape, but it is very important that you don't lose the right meaning. Why? Because when you communicate science, the scientists speak about people and the public takes potatoes. So this is very important to be careful, because the more is spreading news, the more people can miss the meaning. And the more people they can really perpetuate this misleading for many, many things. Practically, we have an example today with the COVID infection that is not clear, very, very clear what we have to do, even from scientists that speak on television. And then when you speak about becoming a science communicator, you have not to be boring. You have to be sharp, clear, not boring. You can even tell the 10 commandments like in this picture, but not to bore people with another PowerPoint that doesn't mean anything. But also science is hard. Really, you have to take into account that speaking about science is not simple, not at all. And without knowledge, you cannot disseminate science. In my career, many times, I spoke with journalists that they do not have really the background to understand science. And I think this is very, very important that people that want to do science communicator must be also expert in what they are speaking. Not expert like a scientist, but that they have to study before speaking to the public. This was the background that led me to think about the language of research. In 2003, I started to think about a project to link the CNR scientists of my city, Bologna, to the high schools of the same city. So to connect researchers with students, in order that the researcher speaks about their scientific research and the students are the communicator and media diffusion. So the program was very simple. Scientists meet students at schools or in the labs, and the students understand the research, the topics, and how is important, what is the science made by scientists and the life of everybody. And then the students themselves, with the help of teachers, create tool for divulgation. And the important thing is that this tool was in two languages, the mother language, Italian, and English. The first lessons that we prepared were done by the scientists in my research area. There are physics, biologists, chemists, mathematics, experts of earth and climate. So all these different disciplines were translated into meetings with students in order that they could have different disciplines, and the students could even choose what kind of disciplines they were more keen to listen to the researcher. The first success also was that this initiative was authorized by the Italian Ministry of School, was upgraded for scientific update for teachers, because of course when a scientist is speaking about the discipline of chemistry, biology, or medicine, or physics, the scientist is speaking about modern things. And we know that often in the books we do not find really updated knowledge. So for example, when we speak about cells, and we will come back to this problem, nutrition, really we do not have knowledge that are updated with the modern knowledge. And this is the gap that schools have with the development of society. And this can be also an important goal of this kind of project. And in the first, in 2003-2004, we got 6 schools, and in 2005 they became 12 schools in Bologna. And you can see that one of them is Laura Bassi High School, that was the most most students participated. And there is a reason, because that time my daughter was going to the school in 2003. And although I had a very, very busy life as a researcher, to see her going to school motivated me to find the way to connect my life with her life. And we organized a final event that then was organized every year, because you can see we have a very large room, a very large facility for inviting 400 people. And is not in COVID time, of course, because this will be prohibited now in Italy. By the way, this is a final appointment that outside this room, there was an exhibition of all kinds of tools that these students invented. I will show you how they are really every year they show us how they are creative for example. This creativity is very, very important. And this final appointment every year was also done in order to award the best tools and class for their work. And the municipality of Bologna, editors of school books, Rotary Club, or other no-profit organizations are also participating to this event. Now I gave up. I mean, I'm not in the organization of the language of research because I built up another initiative that is the company I showed you in the other slides. That I am also scientific director of a company, so I am not able to do thousands of things per day. And now, from 2003 up to now, there are 17 years of working of this project. And also you can see the numbers that the number of students from 1,000 were more than triplicated, and also were also inserted the students from secondary school and students from professional school. So now this is a very important national project, and I am very happy that I motivated the format of this project to go on for many, many years. And it is very crazy how many different divulgation tools can be created by young students. For example, even some student that is good to make drawings, you can see some comics dedicated to pollution. And this is, for example, the title is Help to Save the World. And you can see that it's mentioned how it's important to collect waste and not to go into the sea with plastics and other garbages. And in another way, they invented also new play, for example, with the role of fruit. And this is called in English Chutes and Ladders. And you can do this game. We say in Italy, we say the game of the goose, because you go step by step, launching the numbers and progressing your steps, and you have to answer to some questions which are dedicated, for example, with antioxidant and fruits. Other ideas are, of course, the enigmistic, so to solve some rebus or other questions, or to do plastics like penguins, other things on the environment, other comics on the what you have to choose about food, some PowerPoint on water, and some plastics like here to study the deepness of the seas. So these are related to the lessons, to the meetings that the students have done with the scientists. And it's very, very nice to see that so many things were done by the student. Of course, I have my own experience in this project, because as I did with you in the in the other lessons, I spoke very simply about fats. And this was my contribution to connect science with society, because I was in a group that studied free radicals and molecular medicine and lipidomics. Therefore, I was doing my lessons about the innovation on fats from research. My aim was to increase knowledge, to introduce new paradigms, to increase opportunities, and also to change the bad into good practice, and also to inspire people to create new companies and to have new jobs. And everything started from what we are, and I spoke already in the other two parts of this journey about how nutrition and environment can influence genetics, so that what we eat, mainly macronutrients like protein, sugar, and lipids, and some of them are essential elements, as we already saw during the other presentation. And then what happened, that the industrialization and the stress by pollution, radiation, the use of drugs, the change of lifestyle, it was completely changing the scenario of our development, and in particular stimulated our cell response for the adaptation and survival. But of course, we cannot change everything at once, so we cannot change dramatically nutrition and environment, otherwise our body is in difficulty to face with all this changing. And in particular, it is shown that we can really modulate what is written on DNA, but we cannot exaggerate, we cannot challenge our body, or that it is not possible to face all these changes. In particular, the dramatic change that we have faced is on nutrition. And this was, in fact, the content of my other two seminars I did with you, because I like to say that we can change the environment. I already mentioned the fantastic work of Greta Thunberg on the environment, but I think that we have to do another great job on nutrition in order to save our planet. And I was really very happy to find out that one of the themes that were given to the high school graduation in Italian examination in 2011, for example, was the Feuerbach thought, are what we eat, but with a question mark, because I eventually, some teacher already thought that this is a big issue to have some students that are able to treat this subject. And in fact, as you remember, we are what we eat. We are made by many molecules. The fats are, as I explained you, inside a water body, and so the distribution of fats in the body is very important, especially now that we have problems for the growing number of obese in young and in adults. Therefore, I was already anticipating you that we have to speak about fats for our health. And it is very important to become science communicator in this way, because we have several opportunities to let normal people know about fats, about how much or what kind of fats you have to buy in their shopping, and what kind of fats they have to put in their shopping cart, because in the end they are going to pay this shopping. And of course we want that what we pay is practically equal to the health that we get, and a good health that we can get. Therefore, efforts are needed for science communication to society, that we must understand and then choose the food. So, and to choose the food in the right way, we have to understand also that fats are useful for health. And we cannot spend more for low-fat foods that are not healthy. They do not, we cannot eliminate fats from our life. And so there are now innovation and strategies that we can control the quality and the quantity of fats in our body, and these novelty are now available on the market, and then from scientific research to the market, already we can choose in the market in the right way. We are now, I already spoke about this, but I want to go also to take something that already I say to you in order to stress the communication part of what we have discussed already. So how we can judge the fats if they are bad or good if we don't know who are the fats? And so, of course, we can connect the bad fats with the obesity. And so we should also consider to lose fats, but to not eliminate fats. Because without fats, we cannot live. And of course, even in the slim case, if we believe that we have good health only because we are slim, we are completely wrong. Because to be slim is one part of the whole work that we have to do for living in a healthy way. And I told you about scientifically about the mistake of the pyramid 92, a mistake of putting the fats in the top of the pyramid. I already spoke about this, but I want to stress how to communicate this to the people, how to communicate that science was not fats. They did not study. And what they started, how they started in coincidence with a small part of the research that was dedicated to omega-3. And when you see that from 1990, you see the increase of the number of publications, I have to extrapolate that most of these studies were in coincidence to study omega-3 fatty acids. And it was also in coincidence with the increase of the omega-3 present in the market, because those scientists that were involved in these studies, they were also involved in companies that brought this element to the market. The discovery of the omega-3 was starting from society. So society is completely involved in the progress of science, and this must be explained to people, because the importance of the fats was derived by the news that the Inuit and the Japanese population, that were two populations that eat fish, very much fish in their diet, they showed less incidence of cardiac death. And then it followed a trial on 2,000 people that half of them received the advice to increase the eating of oily fish, salmon, herrings, mackerel, at least twice weekly, and wherever the other half received usual care, so no care about the quantity of fish in the diet. After 2 years, the survival was the primary endpoint, so was considered as a target. And for the group with fish advice, it was seen a 30% reduced mortality. I have shown already in other presentations, scientifically speaking, that is connect the importance of several kinds of foods that must not be avoided in our diet. And fish is one of them. Therefore, after 10 years of research, the Lancet of 89, it was, but before going into the practice, it lasted other 10 years. How many lives should we have saved if the science was brought to the market faster? This is important that we work a lot in order to bring progress of science to society as fast as possible. And this is then the second pyramid that I already showed to you, that corresponds from a science communication point of view to a really big revolution because it changes the presence of the oil in the bottom of the pyramid. Place of water, by the way, was not present in the pyramid in 99, for example. And this is already something that is sometimes we see in many pyramids, but not always we find the importance of water. And then another point to consider, that the old pyramid was confusing people. Then the pyramid itself, as I showed you, is very confusing because it doesn't represent a good advice for people, because people in the pyramid will put in a hierarchy the food. They do not mix food purely. So important to go further with another model. And the model I showed you from the language of research was the puzzle. And this is the food or everyone, the puzzle should be appropriate to file of the one, and we will in the communication with society, if we are able to communicate the concept of the puzzle for the diet. In general, we have to communicate how medicine and health have been changing.
Musimy więc.
Dr. Ferreri, please share your screen and your camera with us once again.
Oh, it is I shifted in a way that I don't see now the other. I cannot share now because it changed. I have to go out and go in. Okay. 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 Now I see.
Please try now.
Okay. Okay. But I again have problem with the webcam already. I have again a problem with the webcam. I cannot share.
Please connect once again and
yes.
just like the last time.
Okay.
It worked.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see the connections now to put my presentation, please. Okay, now yes.
Please try now.
Okay. Yes.
And please share your camera with us.
Yes. Should be. No. Yes. Okay. Okay.
And please make your presentation full screen and start from the place that you stopped.
Okay. Thank you. So we have to communicate how medicine and health have been changed by science. So this is, I think, a very important point that should involve also schools and teachers, because they teach, for example, scientific matters, biology, chemistry, and in the last 20 years, we have done tremendous changes, tremendous progresses of these disciplines. And it is impossible that high school students cannot have this updated information about these disciplines. Therefore, I encourage really the science to communicate with schools in order to update information and to bring in schools the modernity of the science. And an important progress in science was done between the 20th and the 21st century. And the importance of molecular medicine that brought the attention to the cellular and molecular nutrition. So we are a mix of cells in our body, and we have to be sure that in the cells it is receiving the right molecular nutrition. And so our interests are the cell and the cell health, because when we have a tissue, the tissue is made of cells, and the cells are made by cell membrane, and so they exist because the envelope of these cells is formed by lipids and by important fats that we discussed. How our cells are functioning depends from the stress and the stimuli that they receive from outside. Therefore, the cell membranes are very, very important in order that the connection between the cells and tissues with the environment becomes better and better. And also through the membrane, we receive nutrients, oxygen, and again, the quality of our lipids and our cell membrane is very important in order that this nutrient and oxygen arrives into the cell and make the cell functioning. I explained in the other seminars the organization of fats, but this cannot be once a lesson heard once from a scientist from Italy. This must become something that the students in high school they learn, because it is impossible that they can learn cells without knowing cell membranes and the organization of fats. And they should understand, and they should then be able to communicate what are the elements that organize the cell membrane and how the cell membrane is formed spontaneously. And I make 2-3 examples in order to give some suggestion. For example, to compare the membrane with the sandwich. This is also a simple communication, because we can compare the 2 layers with a cheese spread between the 2 layers of bread. And then we have different elements inside that can help the passage of what we need inside the cell. Well, if we have the organization of the phospholipid in a good way, then so we have a good mixture between saturated and unsaturated fats. The composition of the membrane is good, is balanced, and the cell can function. And this connection is very, very important, because depends from the types of fats. We have more or less rigidity or fluidity and flexibility. And so you can really imagine that if you have a thick layer of cheese inside the bread, when you use, for example, water, the water will not pass through the second layer. So it will be stopped in the first layer. And this is the meaning of the rigidity and the permeability that is lost. Therefore, it is important to remark that the composition of the membrane should not be with a lot of saturated fats, in order to allow also to the element to pass through the membrane. And also you can remark also the presence of the pore, like olives that are inside, the olives with the hole inside. And then if we have things that have to pass through the membrane, the pore, so the hole in the olives is important to allow the things to pass through the membrane. So the membrane must accommodate different olives. So the flexibility of the bread is important, otherwise we cannot put the olives inside. And also it must take stimuli, say signal and stimuli. And you can see here we can imagine like a toothpick inside the olive, and you can see that these are like antennas that have the possibility to act as a receiver of signals. And so with the simple example of a sandwich, you can explain to people that have no basis of biology what means to have good or bad fats and good or bad organization. So after having explained the sandwich, you can then shift to let people know more about the fat diversity. And you have several foods, and we spoke already about the different foods in order to show where they have to find the saturated, monounsaturated, and polyunsaturated fatty acids. But also they have to understand, people must understand that the fats are a mix between nutrition and metabolism. Some fatty acid, they must come from nutrition, and so we have to differentiate the polyunsaturated fatty acids, which are essential, omega-6, omega-3, that comes from nutrition, from the saturated and monounsaturated fatty acid that we can prepare ourselves. In the end, the idea is a balance. Then we have to explain also another point, that the formation of the membrane was the first step in the prehistorical time, because you can see the phospholipid that is able to do this double layer is able to make like a sealed compartment, you see? So this is an experiment that was done several years ago by scientists in order to show how life could be happened in Earth. And this was an experiment of the prototype cell that showed that without phospholipid, no life should have been possible on Earth. But it is extremely interesting that this experiment that was simulating what happened billions of years ago, it is practically forever in our life, because when we have need of cells in our seminars, we need to generate and regenerate cells. So every time what happened billions of years ago to motivate the life on Earth is practically what is now happening every moment of our life. Therefore, this is also important to understand that phospholipids are in continuous regeneration, and we have a big opportunity from the regeneration of the cells to restore the good fats. So in case that we have bad fats in our body, we can restore good fats. And this also, I think, it is also another scientific evidence that links now the archaeology with science, nutrition, and people, that comes from this article in the end of last century, 20th century, an article which explains the origin of the Homo sapiens from the Lake Victoria and the region of Africa that you can see here in this geographic picture. And what is very interesting, that the archaeology showed that in between 500 to 100,000 years ago, it was a dramatic variation of the volume of the brain. And this dramatic variation was seen especially in the population that were living in that part of Africa, because they lived in what was at that time the Lake Victoria, that was so large as a sea. And then 120,000 years ago, Homo sapiens emigrated from Africa everywhere, from in the east and the west direction. And in fact, for example, when archaeology archaeologist finds rests of a community, they measure the head and calculate the brain volume inside, because the larger is the skull, larger is the volume brain contained inside. And you can see here from the Australopithecus, various different families, and the Homo, it was a progressive increase of brain volume, and the brain volume was calculated, especially the biggest one was in the population that were close to lakes and sea. Therefore, from this, it came out what is specifically the topic of this research, that the lake fish and shellfish provided brain-specific nutrition for early Homo, and the brain. And we know that, as we have seen in the last seminar, that the fish food are particularly rich of omega-3. And in fact, this review ends with a big issue and message to all population, that we are not really far from the Paleolithic ancestors to think that our industrial diet can maintain forever our intellectual development. Be careful, really, with the origin of life. I explained to you it needs membrane, and the development of brain function that is being practically studied very well, studying our ancestors. We cannot get out of omega-3 consumption in our diet, because we cannot develop our brain without omega-3. This is now very well known that we made an error during our development, and this is another graphics that is a result from the archaeology, biology, medicine, and nutrition. And this is, you can see it also from millions of years before to the 2000 our years now. And this is a graphics from Professor Simopoulos, which is an old woman now, but is a big scientist from Harvard in nutrition. And she was giving us this overview of how different are the energy from fats that we got during our development. And you can see that until the community was hunter-gatherer, so was the nutrition was connected with the food that the humans could hunt. Then the total fats and the difference between the different saturated omega-6, omega-3 fatty acid was always constant. And this tells you that our genetics comes from billions of years, millions of years that are in the same way. With the introduction of the agriculture, we had a better situation only for saturated fats. But in the industrial time, we really grow with the intake of fats, and especially with a lot of saturated fats. And also we created a difference between the omega-6 and the omega-3 intakes. And from the early 20th century, with the big introduction of industrial manipulation of fats, we started to get also trans fatty acid, that we will see what are the trans fatty acids, and this became a big issue for health for many populations. So we made an error. We made an error for development, but everyone says that we can go back to a more moderate society that takes into account the balance of fats that we had in our pre-industrial diet. And we can repair the errors, as we showed you, that if we start from today to eat good fats, they will go and compose our membranes, because we are doing every moment of our life, we are regenerating cells, and by a good diet we can regenerate cells with new fats and with good fats. Therefore, we must be very careful to take good fats from nutrition, and this is the point that in this way is practically connecting our health with money, with what is spent for our nutrition, with a good life. And now let's see some divulgation tools, and we discuss also about the divulgation tools that were done after having all this knowledge about fats and membrane. Here you see a picture, very nice picture from a classroom that was depicting a teacher, and the title of this picture was An Alphabet to Live Better. And here the important message is really the learn how to eat is similar to learn how to speak, because you see the teacher, he says the alphabet. The alphabet means how you speak. And this is very important, because you see the teacher starts from children, and you can see one of these children is already obese. And also it takes you the attention to be simple to speak, like a teacher with children. And you can find many, many other reasons that you can see how deep is the communication of this picture to say to people that nutrition is important. But I want to come back and then show you what happened, what is the communication. I want to come back to the idea that there was a certain point of our history of nutrition that it started, some industrial started the fats. In fact, in the mid of last century, in around 1950, 1960, it was discovered that fats were altered by some industrial processes, like partial hydrogenation. It was used to create margarines. The margarines are those fats which are soft spread. Or deodorization, because you know, when you have fish oil, they smell really bad, and they create an industrial process called deodorization in order not to have the smell of fish. But many research came out with this news, and this is a news that can get it from the internet, that what's tasty isn't healthy. Because this industrial process, they produce trans fat that naturally they occur in some meat and dairy products, but very low levels. Instead, when they go with the industrial process like hydrogenation, the the oil becomes more solid, and you can see that in India, trans fats are called vanaspati, and this is a cheap source that contains a lot of trans fats. And this is something that, Indians, how millions of people lives in India, and they are spreading this because trans fats increases bad cholesterol in the blood and decreases the good cholesterol, and raise the risk of coronary heart disease and heart attack. And there are several foods high in trans fats, and the pioneer of trans fats banned from the food is the United States of America, because these foods are completely banned everywhere in America. And also the French fries and the donuts, they must show in America not to contain hydrogenated fats. Can you imagine how strong was the communication of this news to the society? It led to a consumer strength to the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, and after 10 years, these consumers came out in the 2016 to ban completely the trans fats from the diet. We in Europe, we didn't reach this level yet. So I think that this is an important issue also. But if we want to understand better, since we have already known the structure of the fat, that is phospholipid, and we already knew that the straight structure is saturated fats and the bad structure is unsaturated fats. Now we have to know that the manipulation of the oil and margarines create the trans unsaturated fats. So the trans fats are those fats which add bent that by the chemical process are transformed into trans, so the double bond is not anymore creating a kink, but it's creating a straight structure that is very close to the saturated fats. That is why the unsaturated trans become very harmful, because when you eat the fats that contain unsaturated fats, you eliminate the source of the unsaturated fatty acid, which are naturally bent here, and you consume the fat with the double bond that it is not useful to your membranes. And now is, although the time maybe is not now, what they create about cis and trans fatty acid, the student create a bedtime story, the story of the two fats. And they create a membrane here, and you can see that the bent good fat have a bent in the left, and you can see the bad fat, how they depict the bad fats like a punk fellow with the French fries in the hand, and with the body that is straight. They live in this environment, which is the membrane. You can recognize the phospholipid. And this was a high school in Bologna to depict this story. The story begins with the presence of fats which are not equilibrated, and the cis said to the trans, the problem is that you can provoke dermatitis and hydransaminasis. So you see that the comics is already in English, because we asked the student to speak both languages, and so you can find this directly. And you can see that this announcement from the cis to the trans causes really to be scared a lot. And you can see that he is freezing like snowing from a Christmas tree. Very, very, very amusing, this situation. And then it becomes very, very very strong and very nasty to the cis to the trans, because they say, according to the CNR, so our research, if one follows a correct feeding, mainly based on a balanced diet by introducing omega-3 and omega-6, you might be counseled thanks to the food such as rice and fish. So omega-6 and omega-3, he is telling to the trans and to the wrong fats, you will be defeated by a good diet. And you see that he tries to get some agreement, because he has a ban with peace in the end. But then the cis is giving the bag and goodbye to the trans, because you see the omega is coming with a nice feet, and you say, thanks God, omega-3 and omega-6 are coming to replace you, since you are harmful to man's life. And I think that this is the last step, is bye-bye, and the exit, please, now, of the wrong fat is really, really nice to see this. I think that this seminar, I want to close my communication to you to say that creativity is really a gift to young generation. And the teachers, you have to ask teachers, but even if you are not interested, it's wrong. The teachers must develop the creativity of the students. The creativity is the solution to crisis. Now we must find the solution to the crisis. But the crisis is overcome only by creativity and innovation. And the innovation is sustaining the competitivity and ameliorate society. I am very expert in the model for creativity and innovation, because I founded a company for innovation, and I myself really experienced what is the innovation. And you see, in the first years I was interested in the innovation, and I was really thinking the creativity is the start of innovation. You can see the innovation in this bell-shaped curve is the starting, that is interesting slowly all the society. I think with the help of the student, these curves reaches the highest part very soon. So we have to use the creativity of the young generation in order to progress and to go, in order that the new ideas and innovation is adopted from the large majority. But then this bell-shaped curve gives you also another news, that you must keep on the edge of the bell curve. You cannot go down, because it means that when you adopt a good idea, then people dismiss the idea, and this is not good. Then this model of the innovation is changed. The innovation now is an S-shaped curve, because they demonstrated that if you connect curiosity, dynamism with the sense of the amelioration, with humanism, and with the sense of welfare to the society, you can shift forever the growth. And then you, of course, this means that you must be involved a lot in the innovation in order to sustain the creativity and the innovation. But this is involving again the young people, because they have the strength to believe in the future, and so to give this energy forever to this process. And I think really that innovation have to start at school, and we have the proof with some schools also in Italy, but I know in every country, that they start to 16 years old, 15 years old, the teachers trigger the ideas of the students in order that they have a solution, create a new solution for the society. And this is very important. So I like to finish my presentation. I gave a shorter presentation, because maybe there are possibility to think about what I said, and I didn't want to lose your interest having a long presentation. And I want to thanks for your creativity, for the creativity that young people can give to society. Camus said that the creativity is to give a shape to your destiny, and believe that this is true. And also Piaget is very, very important scientist and psychologist. If you like to be creative, you have to remain a child, and everybody of us want to remain a child with the creativity and the fantasy which is typical of children before they are changing into adults. So we have to motivate ourselves to stay together with young people. Young people need also adults, because I don't believe only in young innovator. I believe that young and adults stay together to ameliorate this society. And so I thank students and their teachers for the contribution to have followed my seminars along this journey, and I thank you for your attention.
Can Mr. Staroni have a
Yes.
connection with us?
Hello, everyone. I don't know whether you can hear me.
Yes, yes, I hear you.
Professor, yes, my name is Jirno Stan, and I would like to thank you on behalf of the Medical University of Łódź and the Foundation for Medical University of Łódź, and the entire community that had the great pleasure of listening to your lectures.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we are very pleased that we were able to hold this session despite the epidemic situation. And we would like to just thank you very much. We wish you much health in the near future, and we hope that we will be able to meet up face to face once the pandemic is over. So once again, thank you very much. It was a great pleasure to listening to you.
Thank you very much to medical school and all of you that were very good to follow everything. That our continue. Thank you very much.
So I think that's it from our side.
Thank you. I don't know. I speak very simply this time because I know that high